I think that's everything we have to get to locally, guys. I wanted to bang that out as fast as I can. I don't know if I'll always go through the local stuff that fast. I'd feel like I kind of glanced right over everything there. But congratulations to everybody that won and placed in the tournaments this weekend locally. And but I wanted to get to today's interview. Um, I know I have not announced who it was with so far. Big surprise. Um, I'm excited. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. The topic is pool commentary, and I was able to get in touch with one of my favorite pool commentators of all time. Um, some of you may know him, some of you may not. It is not Jeremy Jones. Apologize for that. He's probably the top of everybody's list. But guys, without further ado, sit back and enjoy it. The interview takes about 36 minutes. And I think you guys are going to like it. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you guys the corner man, Freddie Agnir. Freddie Agnir, what is up?
Hey, how's it going, Jeremy? Thanks for having me.
It's really good to have you. I know you and I have chatted a couple times on Facebook, really more in threads than anything. Kind of you doing what you do, dropping pool knowledge, and me over here fangirling. So, but it's nice to finally get to actually talk to you, man. This is awesome.
My pleasure.
So it looks very Florida-y in the background there. Where are you at?
I live in Clearwater, but this is just the background picture of one of my favorite places to take customers.
Oh, nice, nice. I love it. Cool. So, for anybody out there that doesn't really know who Freddie Agnir is, take a couple minutes, as quick as you can, and just give somebody a little bit of background. What do you want people to know about who you are and how your importance within the industry?
Yeah, I'm just, in the easiest way, I'm just another pool player, amateur pool player, decent amateur. I won a state championship in New Hampshire, and really that's it. And somehow I fell into the industry. I was going to the Derby City Classic. At some point, Greg Sullivan asked me to head up the Louis Roberts award, the Action Entertainment Award, and they were having a lot of action there, obviously. And that's about the same time. Sorry, that was the same time that the Action Report started doing their gig there. So it was really kind of like a mix, a perfect storm type of activity where the guys there, Justin Collette and Chad, they needed people to hang around in their booth because they couldn't just sit there 24 hours a day. Right.
Right.
And that's really how it started with me. But I'm just a regular pool player. I'm not a professional. I'm from the Philippines. So maybe some people think that there's some kind of magic in my blood. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. I'm a New Englander. I'm a Patriots fan since 1974 when they were one of the worst teams in football. So I like to think I'm just a regular guy. I'm a mechanical engineer and I'm a creative writing instructor. So I sort of take both parts of those and keep them in my commentary somehow.
Yeah, I love that. And I know I've told you before on several occasions that um, I've only been really seriously into pool probably for about 5 or 6 years now. And when I first started taking the game seriously, I spent a lot of time on YouTube trying to learn things, trying to watch the professionals and listen to commentary. And some of the first guys that really explained the game and explained what was happening on a higher level, yourself and Ken Schumann and guys like that, really before Jeremy Jones started doing a lot of commentary. So I guess I'll preface this. We're kind of just getting right into it, but I wanted to have you on to have a conversation about commentary in pool. My podcast is going to be a little bit different. There's a handful of pool podcasts out there already, and so we have the shows out there for guys to come on and interview and do the get to knows. So I wanted to do a quick background of who you are, but really I want to have a conversation about pool commentary, and I can't think of anybody better to talk to it to about that with than yourself. So now that we have a quick background of who you are, and for anybody that wants to find out more about Freddie Agnir, if you are interested, there's a great interview I actually read while I was preparing for this interview. I just Googled Freddie Agnir. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, I'll give a link to that interview in the
It was a
in the
Buzz. It was the
description.
Buzz magazine, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was a quick, maybe about a half hour read or whatever, but I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it, learned a lot. So if anybody wants to know more about Freddie Agnir, you can definitely check that out, and I'll provide the link for you. But Freddie, in your own words, like, why don't you tell me, what do you think is the importance of commentary in pool, and specifically in pool as it relates to other sports or in
Sure.
comparison to other sports?
Pool is people will say that pool is a mental game, and it really is a mental game. In other sports where you can see the action, you can actually just turn off the TV and just watch the action as it is. You could do the same thing with pool too, but because pool is a mental game and a thought process type of game, I think it's very important that good commentary goes along with it, so that you can get into the minds of the players, so to speak. Why they're thinking this, why do they go in that direction, and even a little bit more than that. What do they do to get here? Who are they as they get to where they are, because pool isn't just about what you're seeing in front of you, right? It is a mental game. There's a lot to it, and right at that moment there's a lot to what made a guy do whatever he was doing, even just coming into the place. So unlike tennis, and it's great to hear commentary from tennis, you can sit there and watch tennis and just watch the action, and the commentary is there and very important, just really for that background. I don't want to call it, it's just background sound, I guess you could call it. And maybe that's the same thing with pool too, because I think it's no fun to just watch a pool tournament on TV without hearing some of these things. If I had my choice, I'd rather hear somebody talk about it than just sit there and watch it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm a streamer myself. I run a couple local tournaments and stream a lot, and I do commentary. And you can notice such a difference when you're live streaming a tournament. It can be awesome matches on the stream table, but if nobody's in there in the booth doing commentary, you'll have 5, 10, 20 people watching it. As soon as you get a couple guys in there, it almost seems like it doesn't matter who they are. Get in there talking, and that audio goes with it, and really kind of makes it a production, and the numbers just start climbing, and people start jumping in and watching. So I think it's huge. I think for me, I'm with you. I think it's a little bit more important in pool than even in other sports, and that's kind of why I asked the question, because you really need to provide that connection to the audience and tell them what's going on in the player's mind, and not just what's going on the table, but why it's important, what's the difficulty of the situation, and why certain shots matter more than others.
Yeah.
So I love your answer there, and you kind of backed off of it a little bit at the end there, but no, I'm with you. I think it's bigger in pool than it is in anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you interview 100 people who watch the stream, of course you're going to have 10 people who would rather not have commentary. But it's the other 90% that we're talking about. This, just like anything, the majority is where it's at, and it's the commentary shouldn't just be about people who know it already, right? So if let's just say you're a 600 Fargo rate, I'm just picking that number out of the hat. You're a pretty advanced player. You know an awful lot. You've been studying the game. Maybe the commentary isn't really all for you. That's great. But there are a whole bunch of people, millions of people who play this game that are not 600. And then there are a lot of people that you want to attract that don't even know the game at all. They just happen to see it. They have no idea what's going on. But surely to goodness, those people who don't know anything about the game, they'll tell you who the Black Widow is. I saw her. I stopped. I watched ESPN. And it wasn't just because she was playing. There was a lot of discussion going on there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think the understanding the different levels of the knowledge basis of your audience is extremely important as a commentator. It's
Totally.
something that I struggle with at times doing commentary. Is sometimes I forget that, not everybody understands this game at a, like you said, 600 level or higher. So something to watch out for. If you're somebody that does commentary, I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. I take it very seriously. I know you take it very seriously, Freddie.
Sure.
And I like to see everybody really give their best foot forward there. It's interesting you mentioned the fans that don't even know anything about the game. And I think it's a great segue. I have in my notes here, I wanted to ask you about something you said in the interview that we alluded to earlier about Ra Hanna. You mentioned
Love Ra.
Yeah, I think the question was who you enjoyed doing commentary with the most. And you said, and this is a direct quote, "I have a great time with most, if not all, of my partners in the booth, so several come to mind. I think just for sheer enjoyment, I'd have to say working a match with Ra Hanna is simply the most fun. Ra brings so much energy, and that's something our sport really needs." So could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Look, we watch a lot of 9-ball or 10-ball, and everybody knows that the guy's trying to play the 1 ball to get to the 2 ball to get the 3 ball. There's not much more to it than that. I mean, obviously there's more to it than that. If we don't start reaching out, in my opinion, to the mainstream public, Again, if you take 100 people off the street, 90% of them they're going to enjoy more excitement. The other 10%, you take it or leave it, right? Now, if we just interview 100 pool players, that's a totally different subject. Pool players are pool players; they already know what they know. It's the general public. That's what I'm talking about. And I would say the excitement and the energy that Raw brings to the table will appeal to more average people. Those people that we want to get involved into pool, those people we want to get excited about pool, than just the regular. He's trying for the 1 ball, going 1 rail for the 2 ball, trying to get position on the 3 ball type of thing. All that type of commentary is great. But yeah, it's got to be the next level, which is also, it kind of segues into things like what Matchroom is doing. All of their tournaments are for the excitement. They're trying to do everything they can to get things as exciting as possible. And that's what Raw does all day long. That's him to the nth degree.
Yeah, and while we're on it, I'll just give a quick shout out to Raw and anybody that doesn't know the work that Raw is doing with the JIC and that tour that he's got going on for the junior players is out of this world. The kids are loving it. They're traveling around the country, playing each other all the time. And he just does an awesome work. And if you haven't checked him out, check out On the Wire Creative Media on Facebook or YouTube. So shout out to Raw, awesome guy, and definitely something that pool needs, like you alluded to. So let's get into a little bit about, I think that's a great way to get into pairings in the booth. Because, in my opinion, you're not going to get a much more of an odd couple than Freddie Agnir and Ra Hanna. You're kind of the calculated, really, really knowledgeable, the history of the game, the players, the game itself. And Ra, he not to knock his knowledge at all. He's very knowledgeable.
He's very knowledgeable.
His style is so much more in the opposite direction. He wants to highlight the feeling of the arena and the energy of the players and really, really bring to light the moment and all that. He's so good at it. So I think I'm sure you guys worked well together in that regard because you were kind of yin and yang in that regard. And I think that's something that productions need to pay attention to in the future. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that when you're in the booth with a partner, it doesn't matter who it is, you have to read each other and you have to be able to work well together. If you're always stepping on each other, if you're always arguing, like if your whole point of being in the booth is trying to be right more times than your partner, that's not a good partnership, and that's not good for pool commentary, in my opinion. I've worked with a lot of different guys, and every one of them are different. So with Ra, I know what he brings, what he wants to bring. Like you say, he's very knowledgeable, but he actually doesn't play that card as much as he should. Well, or he could, I should say. And because I know that's what he brings to the table, then I try to offset and play off him. You'll see me a little more excited with Ra because he brings that energy. But at the same time, I don't want to be as excitable as he is, because then suddenly we'll only be targeting one type of audience if we're both just excited and excitable. So I got to kind of like balance out how much he's bringing into the table for just sheer energy, and then bring it right back to that technical kind of technical time of commentary. But all the guys that sit in the booth, it's the same thing. I got to read off them, see which direction they go, and try to complement their style.
Yeah, I love that. And every Tony Romo needs a Jim Nantz, right? Like the guy.
Exactly.
And I think we can't understate it enough, the level of humility that goes into being the other guy. And that's kind of what we're talking about. I think Ra is a great example of it, because nobody out there knows what Ra knows, or knows the level of intelligence that Ra brings to the table. And he does not care. He makes it so much not about himself in that regard.
Absolutely.
He doesn't get like, as far as he knows, everybody out there, he could be an APA too, for all anybody knows, for what he shows in the booth.
And he's not, by the way. I don't want to ruin his action, but he's.
You know what? Maybe that's the play. I don't know. Maybe he's been trying to just hustle us the whole time.
Good for him. Hope it works.
Another great example of that, I think, is a friend of yours, right? George Teachea. Just probably the most humble guy that I've ever heard in the booth. Goes out of his way. I think I've heard him at times intentionally, even this weekend working with Jeremy Jones, to intentionally say the wrong thing to set Jeremy Jones up to correct him and tell the audience what really needs to happen. And maybe I'm sure you could speak to that more than I can, because you've worked with him.
George is one of the most knowledgeable players I've had the privilege of being in the booth with. He is a champion. He's an Arizona State champion. There's absolutely nothing he doesn't know about this game and all facets of the game. And so he's been one of the most enjoyable partners in the booth for sure. I can't speak highly enough about him.
Yeah, it's funny because, like I said, I'm relatively new to the game. I've been taking it seriously for about 5 years. And so 3 or 4 years ago, when I started listening to some of these productions, I'd hear George do that. And I didn't know that. I didn't know how much he knew and all this. And I'm starting to learn, like, this guy knows what he knows the game, and he's just goes out of his way to take on that humble role and be the setup guy for the other guy. And that takes a really special person to do that, in my opinion.
Well, I think if you're sitting in the booth with a Jeremy Jones, for example, it alludes to what I talked about earlier. There's no reason to go in trying to one up your partner. Your partner's in the booth and you try to compliment, and obviously Jeremy Jones is going to be one of the most knowledgeable people you're going to have in any booth. And therefore, my effort would just be to make sure that his knowledge and experience, shines and comes on out. Jeremy doesn't have a problem with having it come out. He doesn't need a setup man, but certainly in the booth with him, it's his show. There's no question about it. And you have to be humble enough to do that, to play that the second fiddle guy, because that's what you're going to be with Jeremy Jones, best commentator in the business.
Absolutely. And it's what we talked about with the football. Like, Jim Nantz knows, like, nobody's there to hear him. Like,
right.
It's tough, but it doesn't really, it's not a knock on the talent and the knowledge of Jim Nantz. It's just a testament to how great and knowledgeable Tony Romo is. And the same thing with Jeremy and whoever happens to be sitting in the booth with him at the time. So I'm curious, I think it sounds like we both agree that Jeremy Jones is the GOAT, but I'm curious, other than Jeremy Jones, let's take him off the board. Let's say you had to draft a team of pool commentators. I'm curious who your top 5 would be, and just leave Jeremy out of it. We'll assume we all think he's maybe one.
Sure. I mean, I think Jeremy's number one because of a lot of things. We can talk about that later, but I really think that Carl Boyes is probably the best overall commentator I've heard. And I say overall, even though I say Jeremy is the best, Carl brings a lot of other things to the table that Jeremy generally doesn't, which is why, like if I talk about an all-around game as opposed to just the technical commentary type of game, I really like Carl Boyes. I like his voice. I like how he brings in other things that aren't about the match right there, some personality, some background information, and his humility. Carl's a world champion, and sometimes he's as humble as anybody while he's on the microphone. And then a second person right after Carl, for my side, would be Niels Feyen. I think that Niels, from a technical standpoint, brings out more about shots than any other commentator except for Earl Strickland. And then going to Earl, would I have Earl on my draft list? Probably. There's some challenges I have with Earl. Fantastic commentator, but it kind of goes back to what I said before. What's your audience? And if the audience is like a brand new player, the spouse of a player trying to sit there, I'm not sure Earl's commentary is going to work out. But certainly for 400 Fargo rates and up, Earl's commentary is some of the best teaching tools out there. So I'd strongly, encourage people to listen to him. And probably the last person on my list, because he focuses a lot on 8-ball and he's a lot of fun, is Bobby LeBlanc, Bobby Cotton. Bobby and I have done some great, and patting myself on the back, some great 8-ball commentary together. And if people just sit there and listen to what Bobby is talking about, he's right like 99% of the time from a strategic standpoint, from a pattern standpoint, and he's a fun guy. So fun, you're going to hear a lot from me. I like going in with commentators that are fun. All right. So if I had a draft team of the best ones out there, those are my guys.
Well, I think your answer is great, and you do pick all these guys, maybe with the exception of Earl, I guess, and he's fun in a different way, right? He has all the stories and everything, but maybe not the funniest guy. Just kind of he's funny too, but maybe I'm just saying it doesn't fit the same mold as Carl Boyes, Bobby LeBlanc, and we'll say Ra Hanna. So, but I think it's funny that your 5 that you're picking, other than Jeremy, are all guys that are kind of the other side of the coin to what you bring to the table. And so
And maybe that's how I bring it. That it's guys I would like to work with, or have no problem working with. It's I don't know why I don't say Alex Laley, because I know Alex is great. So maybe Alex is just the next guy.
yeah, I like all those guys, and it's an interesting conversation about Carl. I was actually going to bring up Carl. He's another guy that you said he brings a lot of humility to the mic because he knows as much as anybody. Like you said,
Right.
world championship caliber player. Um, Maybe a little bit of a different theory than myself on commentary, I'd say. I think probably because I'm such a fan of Freddie Agnir, I would say my style is similar to yours. Probably I'm an amateur version of the professional that Freddie Agnir is. So, but with Carl, I think I think at times there are people that have that theory that let's bring in this audience that is outside of pool. And I think that's important. But for me, one of the things where I get off the bus with a lot of people is you can't dumb the game down. You can't water the game down. There's there you get to a point where somebody you may get them to understand what's going on a little better, but then they understand it and they won't care because the way you've watered the game down,
Mm,
you've taken out all the intricacy, you've taken all the why does anybody care out of it.
right.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's something we have to be careful with. Like, and that's why the pairings, in my opinion, are so important because you can have that guy like Raw Hanna who's going to be the hype and the excitement and the feel of the situation and bring in those people so it's a nice production. But then you have to have that technical guy there too so that they can understand that, look, you're not just making the one and making the two. Like there's a lot going
A
on
lot
there,
going
you
on, man.
know?
And that's that it's funny that the pool players, not intentionally, but the pool players hurt themselves by being so good. They make the game so easy looking that that's why a lot of people don't watch it so much. It's just, oh my god, this is so easy, and just nine balls out there. If they're playing nine ball, just these guys just kind of throw them in. They never have a hard shot. Why would I be interested in this at all? And on to the next thing. Whereas if a person is watching and they see some other sport like, oh my goodness, some of these Olympic sports that we have right now, badminton. This thing is zinging a million miles an hour. Most of us played badminton in our life. You can't hit it back and forth more than two or three times. And these guys are just slamming it, going. They say that shuttlecock can go 200 miles an hour off the racket. You
Oh
can't even
my.
see that off the racket. And yeah, so that pool is not a sport that looks difficult at the highest level. In fact, it looks easy. And therefore, the commentary style, it can't be, if we keep on just making like, he's going to make the 1-2 and he's out here, which I'm guilty of saying sometimes too, uh, nobody's going to follow that, or less people are going to come into that and follow that. We need to make sure that it's still conveyed how difficult this game actually is, especially to the common man.
Yeah, and I think like we all know at the very very highest level, a lot of these matches are a breaking contest, especially some of the
Yeah,
longer races and whatnot. Um, but I think we have to be careful how much we say that. I mean, every rack still has intricacy
intricacies.
and issues. It just because you know there's a 90% chance that the player that you're watching is going to be able to solve that does not mean not that there is nothing to talk about in the rack.
Right.
So I definitely think that you need both. I think we both agree on that. So one more guy that I'll mention with our list of commentators that we really like, and like I said, I agree with almost all of your list there. Ken Schumann is really probably the one guy, and yourself at the time, who really really got me to get addicted when I first started playing. Because he is that guy that showed me as a new amateur player the intricacy of the game, and his commentary taught me patterns in eight ball, taught me problems in nine ball. And I can't tell you maybe one other guy that I'd rather, like, if you told me right now there's a challenge match coming up, 7 foot eight ball, you could have anybody in the world commentate. I'd pick Ken Schumann. I'd rather
Nice.
listen to Ken Schumann talk about eight ball than anybody else in the world. So
Kenny is
I think
great.
we gotta mention him.
So Kenny and I actually got our start together. We were both out in Kansas City to watch a challenge match, and the TAR group asked us to sit in the booth. and we did it. And Kenny had been in there before, but he said he wants to continue on doing commentary. And it was that one match. It was Danny Harriman and John Schmidt, their second time around. It was that one match that really solidified to me that I'd like to do this too. And I got to say it's because Ken was so professional. He wanted a professional product. He wanted to show professional commentary instead of just two guys. And I don't want to insult anybody. I don't mean that at all. Instead of just two guys yapping it and second guessing what the professionals were doing. And he balanced what he would do, what other people might do, and how difficult some things are. And Kenny's a referee also, so he also knows all the rules. And I added in my knowledge of the game and some history. And as partners, we did, again, patting myself on the back, we did a great job. And I would say that some of the work that we did early on, I think that it would be right to take a look at that and say that's a nice model of how you work two people in professional commentary.
Yeah. So let me take a look at my notes here real quick, see if there's anything else that I really wanted to get to with the questions. I've seen a couple times, and you've alluded to a couple times in this match, what makes for good commentary in pool. Do you have anything specific that you would say makes for automatically bad commentary, the no-nos of pool commentary?
Yeah, there's a few things. Not knowing who the players are, and it's okay to not know, but you shouldn't be saying that on the screen or on the stream. You shouldn't say, I don't really know this guy, or I don't know anything about where he's from or anything like that. Just pretend you do. But better off, do a quick interview with the guy. Understand who he is, how old he is, where he's from, what he's shoot with the cue, what does he like about the tournament, what's his best game. It takes seconds to ask and take down notes. And the other thing I think that's really, really bad is when you start arguing with your booth partner. Once you start, in some kind of competition with your booth partner, then it starts going the wrong direction. Our commentary is meant for the audience. It's not meant for ourselves. That'd just be too much narcissism there. So I think those are my two biggest pet peeves about listening to the stream. Once they start talking about other things, I don't mind if somebody starts talking about food, like they have great food here, but that gets to be, if that becomes part of their shtick, that gets to be old really quickly. So I guess that's another thing. You gotta at least bring it back to the people that you're watching, the two guys that you're watching, and they're more important to talk about than ourselves or bickering about which shot was right. I would have shot that shot, and that starts working on people, and that's probably the most complaints. That people believe that the commentators are pretending they know more than the professionals. That surely is not what they're trying to do, but it can sound like that. So all of us have to make sure that we do a better job at not sounding like that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it can be a little bit easier said than done at times too.
Sure.
But it's something that you have to work towards as a commentator, and something that I'm currently working on. For me, one of the problems that I have is I work in a lot of noisy environments. There's bands playing in the background, and if you don't have everything set up just right, where you have the monitor in your headset, it can be tough to even hear when the other guy starts and when he stops. And that's something I have to work towards, kind of trying to look at my partner and figure out when those opportunities are to talk, and just really remembering that the other guy has stuff to say too.
When I'm doing commentary and actually talking, I'm looking right at my booth partner. As long as there's no camera on us, I'm staring right at him, because he and I are having a conversation about what's happening on the table. So I'm staring right at him because I know that it's an interaction. There's two of us in there.
Yeah, I love that.
The toughest commentary is doing it by yourself. That ends up being like radio broadcasting a little bit, where you have to add more information because there's nobody else that's going to fill in. So that gets to be tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm definitely a talker, and I love the play-by-play aspect of the commentary. And it's funny. I'm kind of the opposite of that. I think if it's actually probably easier for me to do solo commentary than it is to work with somebody. So that I'm really, really working towards that, and not trying not to run over the other guy. So something to work towards. I don't have any other questions written down. Is there anything else that you think is missing from this conversation so far that you'd like to add?
Well, not specifically about commentary, but I will, there's been a question recently because currently we have the Olympic sports going on, the Olympics, um, and people always wonder how come pool is not in the Olympics, right? And for those of you, you don't know, we have a committee out there, a world organization, the WPA, and one of their big charters is trying to get pool and cue sports into the Olympics. And two things have to happen there. One, a format that's played to keep the excitement level. That's probably the biggest thing. If you look at all the Olympic games out there and sports in general, they've come up with some kind of format that it may not prove who the best player is. Like, for example, in tennis, they do 2 out of 3 sets, each set to 6. They do not do a race to 50 points, right? Doing it to 50 every time, you're going to get the better player. But 2 out of 3 sets, race to 6, might not get you the best player. You're just going to get the guy who got to 6 twice more than the other. And sometimes you're going to get an upset, which is why the format allows that and there's excitement to it. So the format in pool has to be something exciting. It's not going to be a race to 100. It's not going to be a race to 21. It's going to be something that gets enough excitement and has the ability for an upset. And then the second piece is that the commentary has to be exciting enough. And if you look at every sport out there, I just watched archery yesterday and their setup, it was so exciting. I don't know a thing about archery, but the commentary and the way the format is makes it very exciting. And so people are working at this. But there is actually a third thing that I have to stress here. One set of rules or a major set of rules that everybody abides by. And today we have 100 million people who play pool. Let's pretend there's 100 million who play pool of some kind, counting all the people that play it in the bars on Friday nights. They all, not only do they all play different rules, but there's half of those people don't even want to acknowledge that there is another set of rules out there, right? And until we start being able to do that as a complete industry, the players included in the industry, it's going to be very difficult to get in the Olympics. And watching the Olympics right now, look how many of those sports are out there that have all of these things. And I want to get there. And I think it takes everybody. It takes a village, as they say. It takes everybody to start getting together in order to do that. Format, great commentary, one set of rules. That's what's needed, and that's certainly what I'd be pushing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with all that. I'm curious, have you got to, and we're getting a little bit off topic here, but I'm okay with it. I could talk about pool all day. So, have you been able to watch any of the Arizona State Championships, the Predator Pro Series event out in Tucson this week?
I have not, but I'm hoping I can.
So do you know anything about the format, or?
I believe this is a race to 4, 2 out of 3 sets. Is that the one?
Basically, yeah, except it doesn't go to a third set if tied. It's actually a spot shot shootout.
Yeah.
So,
so these are the right, in my opinion, these are the right things. And just like in the stock market, we probably overcorrected one way and we'll bring it down another way until we sort of come to a consensus somewhere in the middle. What's the right format? I mean, I can't sit here and judge on it because I've not been watching it. I've only been reading the comments. Race to 4 seems short to me. So that's what I'm just saying but I can't really make that judgment since I didn't see it. I'm sure there's a lot of excitement because I can tell that there would be some opportunity for upsets.
A lot of excitement for sure. And I mean, on my recap of this tournament later on the show after this interview, you'll see that the top 8, if you look at it, got the same result. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no matter what.
I mean, there's opportunity for upsets. I mean, Mike Deshane lost in a shootout to a player that was probably 150 Fargo points below him easily, maybe 200 below him. And there was some of that. There was a couple local open level players that snuck into the top 16. But 14 of the top 16 were the guys and gal, I should say, that
Sure.
that you would have picked at the start of the tournament. So as much as these guys are going to complain about the format, if it's better for the audience, and you kind of get the same end result. Really what you're saying is if you think you're the best player and you're complaining about that format is you want to get away without playing your best pool throughout the course of a tournament.
That's all of us, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure. So just 2 more quick things, I think, or actually maybe one more quick thing. I'm a Freddie Agnir fan, and I'm sure that there are other people that are going to listen to this that are fans of Freddie Agnir. And we haven't heard from you in a while as far as commentary goes. Do you have any plans for getting back in the booth sometime soon?
Well, I'm always open for gigs. I am a full time worker, so it's very difficult because until I get retired, which hopefully will be soon someday, it's just not. I can't just say yes to everything. But yeah, I'm certainly open. But there's nothing planned currently. It's we had a tough year last year, and I think more of these tournaments are just getting back on their feet. And so hopefully in the next couple months, I'll at least be on a couple matches.
Yeah, I would love that. And guys, if you're out there, you need somebody, and Jeremy Jones is working three other events that week. He can't do everything, so there's other options out there. Let's get Freddie Agnir in the booth. Let's get Ken Schumann back in the booth if he's interested. I haven't talked to him. I don't know, but
No worries.
Freddie, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we cut this off?
No, it's my pleasure, Jeremy. I really appreciate this.
Thanks a lot, man. I'd love to talk to you again sometime in the future.
All right, take care.
Bye. All right, guys. Yeah, once again, just want to thank Freddie Agnir for coming on. Awesome of him to do that for me and for the show. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I thought it was a great conversation about pool commentary. We touched on a lot of things. And in just a moment here, we will be getting back into what we were just talking about at the end of that interview, the Arizona Open out in Tucson. But before that, I'd like to take a look at the results for the BEF Junior Nationals. I'd like to give a shout out to the gentleman Ben Sutherland of BBTV Productions. You could find that on Facebook or YouTube. He did a great job with the live stream. That's Ben Sutherland of BBTV. Check him out. Real quick, I'd like to go over all the winners. They had about 10 different divisions out there at the BEF, stands for Billiard Education Foundation Junior National Championships in Las Vegas. The boys 18 and under. First place, Landon Hollingsworth. Second place, Riley Adkins. Boys 16 and under. Landon Hollingsworth, once again, with the first place. Joey Tate in second. Boys 14U, Harry Leinen and Kyle Yee. Girls 18U, Ariana Lynch and Sophia Mast. Girls 16 and under, Kennedy Mayman, Ellie Gonzalez. Girls 14 and under, Haley Marion. And second place, Skylar Hess. Just, I think, 2 racks away from defending her title in the 14 and under girls. So shout out to Skylar. A lot of you guys know Sky. So 10 ball, Mason Koch in first, Justin Toy in second. 8 ball, Gabriel Martinez and Lazaro Martinez the third in first and second there. 22 and under Scotch doubles, Lazaro Martinez and Joey Tate. 16 and under Scotch doubles, Landon Hollingsworth, and I don't have a first name. It just says S. Eaton. So congratulations to all them. As you heard, Landon Hollingsworth 3 times, 3 different divisions, first place. So all about Landon Hollingsworth out there in Vegas. Great shooting, Landon. And once again, congratulations to Skylar, second place, defending their title in the 14 and under. So great job out there in Vegas, guys. And if you want to watch, you saw that highlight video. These kids can play. I mean, there was a lot of flukes in that video, pretty impressive flukes. But as you could see, the jump shots, the safeties, the kick safeties, these kids can really, really play. And if you want to watch more of them, check out Ben Sutherland's stream, but also check out On the Wire Creative Media. Raw Hannah has the JIC tour, and you can watch the kids pretty much every month. It seems like there's a stop somewhere. So definitely look that up and enjoy watching these kids play. And the future looks bright for pool. So but that was the BEF, guys. Before we get too far ahead, I actually our verse this week, I wanted to give you right with the Freddie Agnir interview. I thought it went well with the topic and went well with his thoughts on respect for your booth partners and whatnot. So let's check it out. Philippians 2:3. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than themselves. Now, I thought that went pretty well with what we were talking about with with Freddie Agnir, talking about respecting your booth partners and really just giving them the platform. And it was a great conversation. So let's get into the Arizona Open. For anybody that doesn't know, this was the first stop of the the CSI Predator Pro Series. They're scheduled for 5 events this year. This first one in Tucson, Arizona, just completed. Uh, Coming up beginning of September out in Las Vegas. They've also got Michigan, Ohio, Puerto Rico with the dates to be announced. They've already said next year they're going to probably add Texas to the schedule and maybe a couple other events. So, going to be pretty cool. Anybody that was not following, to get into this, you heard Freddie and I talk about the format for this a little bit. A race to 4, best 2 out of 3 sets, but the third you don't play a third set. If it's 1-1, you go to a shootout, shooting basically spot shots. The 10 ball was actually behind the spot where the 10 ball would be in the rack. So, but real quick, Billiard TV has officially launched. It is going to be a 24/7 billiard network. Um, Kind of the pool version of the Golf Channel. So you can watch that on Distro TV, Cloud TV, Local Now, Zingo TV. I don't know about all of these platforms. I know personally I use Distro TV. I downloaded the Distro TV app on my Fire Stick, and I was able to you just scroll down 5 or 6 channels, and it's right there. So it's pretty cool to see a billiard channel, and that's where you were able to watch the coverage of the event out there. The event was put on by Q Sports International. Shout out to Ozzy Reynolds, the CEO. The Booth brothers were out there. They actually had a live show Friday night. Joey Ryan was on site. Joey Ryan played in the tournament. Actually, he was in the first match on the stream table. He played Christina Tkach. Um, so that was pretty cool. We're gonna talk a little bit about the format. Here's your champion, Fedor Gorst, second place, Carlo Beato, and then second from the right there is Ozzy Reynolds, the owner, CEO of Q Sports International. So they've announced that all 5 of those events on the schedule for 2021 will be this format: races to 4 races to 4. You play 2 sets. If you win both of them, you win and move on. If it goes 1-1, you go to a spot shot shootout. And it was exciting. We saw a lot of shootouts. We saw some good players lose to players that they were huge favorites against. I mentioned in the interview with Freddie, Mike DeShane lost to a player that was well below him by Fargo. And so, I mean, you're going to hear complaints from some of the good players about the format. Ozzy Reynolds said in his interview on the Booth Brothers that it's a vocal minority. He said most of the feedback that he got was positive. A lot of the players liked it. Everybody thought it was exciting. And I want to show you guys that, in my opinion, we talk about it gives opportunity for upsets. You can have some players have a chance to beat some better players, but I think we got almost exactly the same results that we would have predicted. I want to show you this. I did a real deep dive into the stats from this tournament. I went through the entire players list. I think it was 46 players, looked up each and every single one of their Fargos and listed them first to last. And what I found was, if you look at these are your top 16, first to last. You can see the tournament finish there in the middle, and their Fargo rank overall in this field. And Fedor Gorst and Carlo Beato were ranked 1 and 2 going in. They finished first and second. The rest of your, third and fourth, Roberto Gomez, Edgy Geronimo, both top 10 players by Fargo in this field. And there you see, you got 1 on this list, you got 2, you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're missing 3 and 11. You look all the way down the list, you're missing 3, 11, and maybe 1 other. You got a couple outliers here. Christina Tkach, 22, even though, she's been playing like a champion, fresh off a big win out at the Midwest Expo. I think it was called the Midwest Expo. So, but you have to go down I think if you actually back this out one more round, which I did in my overall look at this thing, um, the only player that did not either cash or finish one spot out of the money in the top, that would be what, top 32, I think. There was only one player that did not do that. That was in the top 32 rankings, I think. So it was pretty close to the result that you would have expected going. And maybe I didn't explain this as well as I would like to, but um, what I'm trying to say is if you back this up and look at 17th through 24th, this was single elimination for the top 16. So the next level would have been 17 through 24 because it was still a double elimination bracket. And those next 8 players were all they filled out the rest of this top 25 or so. You had the outliers here. Blake Baker, 19, sneaks into the top 16, which is not much of a surprise. And then Ben Hrabina was probably the biggest outlier cashing, and he's a mid 600 Fargo player. So, in my opinion, if this format makes it more exciting to watch for the fans, maybe some people that aren't even fans of pool, and you get close to the same result, I'm for it. So be interested to watch moving forward the way the rest of these events go. Maybe we'll take a look at the stats like that at the next one as well, and see if that holds up moving forward. Um, but shout out to Ozzy Reynolds and the people at Q Sports International for trying something new. They knew with this decision that they were going to get a lot of flack, a lot of negative feedback, and but it was a great event. It was fun to watch, and Better Gorst, congratulations. So that's your Arizona Open. That's just about everything I want to get to today, but I'm gonna give you guys a quick what to watch. Going forward here. Thank you guys for checking out this podcast. This is the second episode. We're having a lot of fun here. Plan to keep doing this every Monday night. Giving you a local recap, local upcoming schedule, and a look around the country like we have here, and maybe a guest interview like we had today. So hope you guys are enjoying that. But quick what to watch. Maybe you're out there and you're obsessed with pool and you don't really know where to go to get your fix other than just watching old YouTube videos. Well, check out the Pool Player Podcast. A lot of you guys know Joey Ryan doing a great job out there, out in Arizona. It's a great show. He's got about 34, 35 episodes that you can go back and listen to. It's great content with top professional players and some industry leaders. Check him out. Does a great job. Also, Joey Ryan and Mark White and Melina Mike, the Booth brothers. They go live. It had been every Tuesday night, but last week they went live on Friday night. Check them out. It's more of a live show. There's a lot of fan interaction in the comments. You guys can get on there and chat with them, have some questions answered. And it's a great time watching them. They do a great job breaking down all the action. Of course, Melina Mike, probably pool's biggest insider. It's an awesome show. Check them out. Cue It Up podcast, probably the original pool podcast. They have well over 200 episodes of content. You guys can check them out. They're on all your favorite podcast platforms. That is Nate Mintum and Robert Havik, and Demetrius Gelatis is on there all the time. So check them out. They do a real good show. And they break down all these matchups and basically everything going on in the pool world. And then there's, of course, We Are Pool Players podcast, a couple guys up in Canada. So check them out, guys. If you are a pool junkie, there's a lot out there for you to watch and listen to. Also, coming up, Omar versus Oscar. This starts tomorrow. It is a race to 100. Winter break. They're playing 10 ball, 40,000 in the middle. You can check out the stream at Aaron's Pool Parlor. The first day is free, as you can see over in the right-hand corner of your screen there, August 3rd. Race to 33. It's free. And then the second 2 days there, only $20. Definitely worth your while. Check them out, Aaron's Pool Parlor on Facebook. That's at Hard Times in Sacramento, which is actually Oscar Dominguez pool room. And also at Hard Times coming up the week right after that, August 7th and 8th, going to be a big professional level tournament. So we'll be breaking down that one and moving on. I don't see live stream information for this one, but when I have that for you guys, I will share it to my page. It's going to be great action out there. Then you've got big one coming up here, Skylar versus Carlo. August is loaded with these big challenge matches coming up. Skylar versus Carlo playing big table, 9-ball, 9 on the spot. Winter break, going to be a good one there. And the stream is, you can find it at omegabilliards.com for the pay-per-view. I'll definitely be breaking that one down for you guys. I'll try to get that and watch it for you. And one that I'm real excited about coming up as well, Robert Frost versus Bobby McGrath. This is my favorite game, 8-ball on a 7-foot diamond, race to 80. Going to be awesome show. If you guys haven't watched Scott Frost play, he's a great one-pocket player, but he also plays great bar table 8-ball, and I think Bobby McGrath is a little bit of a bar table 8-ball specialist. So check out Pool Action TV for that pay-per-view. Coming up after that, we got the Texas Open, end of August. It's a huge tournament. And I think on here somewhere it says where the stream is. Don't know. But once again, all these live streams, guys, I'll share them to my page multiple times. You can check them all out. There's a lot of good pool coming up. And the big one, Matchroom, putting on the U.S. Open out of Haraz Resort in Atlantic City, September 13th through 18th. That tournament was a 256-player field. It filled up in about less than a day. It's going to be a great event put on by Matchroom. You can check it out on Sky Sports and DAZN if you're in the U.S. And then just recently announced the matchup in one pocket that everybody's been wanting to see, the Lion, Alex Pagulayan versus T-Rex, Tony Chowan. They have announced the dates, September 23rd through 26th. I guess they are still trying to set up where that's going to be at. And I think the live stream, once again, I should have wrote these down so I didn't have to search the Pool Action TV live coverage. Yeah, there you go. Check it out. Pool Action TV. Now, Pool Action TV, guys, doing a lot of these big long race events, and they have a yearly pass that you can purchase for, I think it's $120 for the first time, and you can renew it for $100. So check them out. And most of these individual pay-per-views are about $20 or $30. So definitely check out Pool Action TV. They're doing great things in pool. So guys, that's everything I wanted to get to for today. Thanks for watching episode 2 of the Sweat Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Mason. We'll be live next Monday about the same time. Don't have an announcement on the guest interview, but you guys are not going to want to miss it. I promise you that, and we'll break down some of these tournaments that we've announced that are coming up. So until next time, guys, I'm Jeremy, and you've been watching The Sweat.